Okay, here we go on the Friday show. Yes, let's go. Let me just see this. Okay. Gian says audio is good to go. Hi there, Debbie. Folks, we're going to give you the latest. All right. It is Friday. Okay, now we have some other news. Some other news on this Friday. So, hi there, this KL. Look at that. Yes, nice to see your comment. Yes, it is. There's Catherine. Now, folks, we will be, in motion this weekend. Ready to go. This has been quite very, very busy. There's Robin. We're going to be back in action, everyone. We're going to be starting in just 4 minutes. Now, we do have a development. Let's see. Captain Vincent McKee, that Damari Montero has been processed at Cranston Police Headquarters, now being transported to District Court in Warwick, Quaker Lane. So he is the alleged shooter. We are going to have on. Hi there, Donna. Hi, everybody. What a week it has been, folks. What a 2-week stretch it has been, right? For those that follow, yes. And I do have some updates, by the way. Also, I want to mention we're going to start in just 3 minutes officially. Hi there, Richard. Today is Friday, August 22nd. The 11th. Is that the 11th? When was the Cranston shooting? Wasn't that the 11th? Or was that the 4th? I can't keep track. Anyhow, what a period of time this has been. Let me just double check. Probably I know that stuff, but okay, there's that. That was August 10th. It's the 4th. Look at this. This is insanity. Yes. Okay, no, it was not. It was the Monday. Okay. There we go. I thought so. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so the shooting was Monday, August 11th. They caught him. They had the press conference on the 12th. That night, okay, I talked to Sean. I talked to the family of Kylie. And then we were in Rehoboth that Wednesday and Thursday. Okay. And then that's where we are. Okay. And then they found her Tuesday. All right. We're going to start in just a minute. Folks, if you see, I hate to even mention this. I'm not going to mention any names. Admittedly, I haven't seen it. I was wrapped up last night with an investigation we're working on, and then this morning. A lot of times, the many of you that are new, we're going to begin. I go undercover with, sometimes where I can't be filming live. But we're going to begin at 1:06 on this Friday. So it has been. I'm right. What a stretch this has been. Today is, Friday, August 22nd. So the Dominican Festival was August 10th. The Cranston shooting was the 11th. They had the press conference on the 12th. That night, I talked to Kylie's family. I was on the ground in Rehoboth on the 13th and 14th. And then they arrested him and went to the property on the 19th. And then tomorrow night is the vigil. So it has been. It's not no wonder I'm tired. I was telling a friend of mine, I'm so tired right now, but it does it certainly makes sense why I would be tired. Folks, this portion of our program, now it looks like the weekend is going to be very, very nice weather. Remember, you can stop in at PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, maybe on your way to the beaches, 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown. They have delicious homegrown corn. They have fresh vegetables. They have fresh peaches that are available. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, 3688, excuse me, Quaker Lane in North Kingstown. Look for them on Facebook. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Now, we still have, and people just remember, I'm going to have some updates. I don't know today, but definitely over the weekend. I have new information about the case, the investigation. I'm going to get into some of it, but otherwise it will be posted on our website, DePietro.com. And let me also be very clear. The website is totally fine. Brought to you by the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. Remember, lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge. They have the chef's special menu where they have delicious clam cakes and chowder. They have pierogi, if you like Polish food, which I enjoyed when I spent a month, March of 2022, was in Poland as we were covering the beginning of the Ukraine war that is still going on. But stop it and see them at the Coesit Inn. Delicious surf and turf. Everything, you're going to love it. The Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue in West Warwick. Now, let me also mention, we're on a roll. Someone posted, could you do I would like it if you would do this show with no commercials. And my response is, how does it feel to want? Listen, these commercials make the program roll. What do you think I'm doing? Like community service here? No, that's why Propane Plus. Good afternoon to Diane. Remember, in Rehoboth, Propane Plus, call them 508-252-3359, online at propaneplus.com. In Rhode Island, 401-885-4209. Remember, for all your heating and cooling, residential, commercial, heating or cooling, you can depend on Propane Plus. Now, I have a number of different updates, especially, obviously, this is still, tomorrow night is the vigil. That is exactly right. Thank you, Evelyn. That will be at 7 o'clock. I have a family, this has been long set, family gathering, summertime. I have nice family. Very proud of my children. And so I'll be unable to attend, but I have been speaking with the family. Now, a couple things. There's different aspects of this. And I want to first say, I think the Massachusetts State Police detectives and also Rehoboth Police, I think they did an excellent job with this. There's some misinformation floating out there. There are some people purposely putting out misinformation. I don't want to dwell on it, but I think it's also helpful to point it out to some people that may be following the case. I also want, there's so many new people that are following. And again, right now we're live on AM 1380, 99.9 FM. But we're also live on YouTube and X and Facebook. I'm sharing with you. We learn by doing this. We learn a lot by doing this. More than other members of the media. There are some people that are new to this type of situation. You learn by covering it. I learned a lot. We learned a lot about the Charlotte Lester case. We really leaned very heavily into that. And at the end, the family, publicly thanked me for our dedication. Long after the rest of the media gave up on that case, we didn't give up on it. If you look at the post from Michelle Romano, we were the only media outlet trying to draw attention. She was a missing woman out of Warwick. Beautiful family. And we did some videos on it and did postings on it. Very tragically, her body was found. That investigation is still ongoing. But we learned on that. I learned a lot on Linda. And when Linda was found, we jumped into action. I dropped everything. I had to cancel everything that Saturday. And I have, there are some people that understand that. There's some people that don't understand that. Um, I can be a difficult friend if you don't understand that there's times that I have to drop everything because I want to and jump onto it. And that was one of them. And then when they found Linda, I was at the hospital with the family. And again, they publicly thanked me as well. This is a tough story. I want to mention, I haven't seen it. I have not seen it, but there are people out there. If I want to do benefit of the doubt, there are people out there. I'm just going to, I would, if I want to do benefit of the doubt, I would guess it's amateur hour. And I hate to even mention this. I can't go searching, but there are people posting personal information of the family. There's no reason for that. Now, again, I can't surf around. You don't have to put anything in the comment. If you see that, wherever you may see it, you should contact that page, whether it's on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, wherever, anywhere. If you see people sharing information about Kylie's family, and many of you that followed our coverage, we would have Kitty on. Obviously, I was talking with the family. We had friends of Kylie on. To be honest with you, and but that should be, if I want to do benefit of the doubt, just send them a message saying you should not have that. I also want to just address, there are people, they start to take things out of context. And one of the things I'm floating is, again, I'm not going to name names, the conspiracy crowd. They jump in, they want to create something. And the whole element of that, Kylie sent a text saying, if anything happens to me, it was Greg. And there's people saying that they should have called the police and I went there. But what you're missing, either they don't know or they're being misled, is they talked to her after that. They FaceTimed with her after that. Her family has said she could be a drama queen. She was an 18-year-old who was pregnant. Maybe the hormones are already starting to kick in. But it's unfair to say immediately the family should have called. She FaceTimed with them and everything was seemingly fine. She said everything had calmed down. They were going to cuddle. The next day, they received text from her they thought was her. I posted those texts. You don't know. Hey, everything okay? Yeah. I'll talk to you later on. I mean, this Monday morning quarterbacking and attacking the family is ridiculous. Now, I also want to mention something. And I want to be very clear. If I tell you it's going to rain, it doesn't mean I want it to rain. I'm just telling you what the forecast is. So I'm going to share some information. And I can already tell some people, so you're saying, how can you? I'm just telling you how I believe this thing is going to play out. And for those, I know that a lot of people don't listen. A lot of people don't pay attention. I get that. Like people that just barge into the chat and start putting various things. So, there's some people that they lead first without listening. I found attorney Stephanie Murphy, who we had on yesterday. I think she said some things that some people need to realize, but I can tell through some of the comments that people don't get that just yet. I also know that there is someone that put out audio of Kylie talking with him. I find, and that's supposedly a friend of hers, I think that's a little bit invasion of privacy, number one. I mean, part of it, him saying, I want my life back. I think that's the crux of it. Some people still seem mystified by this case. I think it's fairly obvious, but there's some different aspects I want to, and I am also going to talk on. It's not on people's radar, but a hurricane is heading our way, and I'm going to explain, not a storm, but a different type of storm. But I want to remind you folks, if you ever have disaster, serve Providence. this is who you want to contact. 24/7, by the way. They're available 24/7. It's Serve Pro of Providence. So if you have a fire or a flood, or maybe you have mold or smoke damage of some kind, Serve Pro of Providence. They're fast, they're thorough, they're professional. Call them 401 941 5500. Fast, thorough, professional, 401 941 5500. You can find them on social media. Thank you, Linda Fisher. I appreciate that. You know, folks, we put a lot of time in, admittedly. I was very tired yesterday. Thank you, Linda. Look at that on Facebook. And then, you know, as I've said, I don't like the conspiracy crowd. Then they start to attack me, which they're starting to do. But there's some different aspects of this whole case that I want to touch on. There's also, I'm not going to get into the weeds on it because that's what people want. But there are people who don't want to mention that the Massachusetts State Police and Rehoboth Police, they did a very good job at this investigation. And they don't want to mention that because they've been running around saying all police are corrupt, can't trust any police. Now, many of you know, I obviously don't feel that way. I work with them. I travel with them. I literally work with police every day. So, but in this case, this is Massachusetts you're talking about. It's not, Massachusetts doesn't have a problem with the police. Massachusetts has a problem, in my opinion, is with the justice system and a lot of the judges. And it's who become judges. And Rhode Island can be the same way. They all come out of the Beacon Hill, Massachusetts State House, and also the Rhode Island State House, the Den of Thieves on Smith Hill. But number one, I don't think it fully resonated. Stephanie Murphy tried to explain it, but I can tell through some of the comments, folks, he's not going to be charged with a double murder. It's not my decision. I'm just telling you. My program is for those that want to deal in reality. Not everyone does. Not everyone does. Some people like Looneyville. They like Conspiracy World. He's not going to be charged on a double murder. It's not a, are you saying? I know it was an unborn child. I know she was pregnant, but she was also 11 weeks pregnant. He is not going to be charged with double murder. Here's the other thing. He's not even doing life. I mean, it's too soon. This will not go to trial. Someone was posting, this is going to be so important in his trial. This is not going to be a trial. He doesn't have resources. There'll be some kind of and I'm not saying they're going to offer him a great deal, but he doesn't have the resources to put up. You know, he's not a means unless they sell the 26 acres and then hire some attorneys and try to fight it. But he confessed and drew a map. So I want to back up. There's a guy that shot and killed a police officer in the early 90s in Boston. He got out in 2008, 2012. So many people you may not like it. And again, I want to, again, say this is the ultimate. It's not what I want. Certainly not what I believe in. So this isn't like kill the messenger, but there he is. Greg Groom, he's 22 in Massachusetts. I got to think he's out before he's 40. Before he's 40. Will he get 25 years? Yes. Yeah. He'll get 25 years, maybe 20. Good behavior if that happens. 15. But I believe, again, I'm not saying that I would want that. How I would deal with a lot of this stuff is far, far different. But this is Massachusetts. Rhode Island is the same way. Life in Rhode Island is not life. People in Rhode Island and Mass, they get life in prison. You know what that means? 20 to 25 years. Max. Max. Do you understand? The guy in Boston, he shot and killed a Boston police officer. He got out in 2008. He did 15 years. He got 20 and he served 15. And then he got arrested because he robbed a a bank in North Providence. He was living in Warwick. So it's terrible. That's exactly. Thank you, Debbie. No, it's insane. But I believe it's the judges. A lot of people, sometimes you're not sure. To me, it's kind of like a leak. Maybe there's a leak in your house and you're not sure where the leak is coming from, and then you find it. I think it's the judges. They're very friendly to defense attorneys. They're very friendly to defendants. Now, if this were Texas, Florida, some other states, then this would be a death penalty case. Potential death penalty case. So potential death penalty case. But I'm trying to give you reality. There was someone posting on my page, will you be covering the trial? There won't be a trial. I'll go to the next hearing, I believe, if he's going to be there. But, and I don't know where that's coming from. Well, someone else already said that, there's going to be a trial. Oh, really? That's interesting. No, that's not going to happen. It's horrible what happened. But as far as, I also want to touch on this business of, is it possible he told someone? I'm going to let the police investigate that. We know the other night that a father seemingly was very upset that I even showed this photo. I have a report that I'm going to post on the website, DePietro.com, which talks about, we're getting mixed things here. There's other information, right? Like they wanted to get his phone. He said, oh, my phone is broken. What a coincidence. Just as she's missing, the phone is broken. Boy, that guy just can't catch a break. No, I think it's really unfair for people to, but again, I get it that some people just come late to the party and they want to be relevant. No, there's one person that committed this, and it's the 22-year-old boyfriend. As far as the family, listen, they knew he was odd, but that's who she was 18 and wanted to date, and then apparently got her pregnant. And for a while, she was allowed to stay there. So do you think maybe he's going to be a jerk to her? Maybe. Do you think he's going to? No, there's no reason for them to think something like that. This Greg Groom, he had never been arrested. He didn't have a record. He didn't have a dangerous record. But I did want to mention that I was speaking with someone. I won't say exactly the context of it, but it was someone who they were still mystified as to, motive. And again, I'm not trying to be Columbo, but it's because she was pregnant. It's because she was pregnant. Him saying, I want my life back. The pregnancy, maybe he acted like he was happy about it, but he's a 22-year-old guy and he didn't want to have a relationship with her. So what am I saying? I'm not saying Kylie did obviously not anything wrong, but the moment that he viewed, and this is sick, it is, and it's very sad. And I also question, there he is with the bat. Did the grandparents, I understand that people have questions. How could the grandparents not have heard anything? I don't know. How could the brother not have heard anything? How did he dig a 5-foot hole? That's a lot. That's not easy to do. And he's a scrawny individual, big man. Yeah, real tough guy with the bat with an 18-year-old girl. But I think it was the pregnancy. It was. It's. And again, there's certain, as I've mentioned, and Lacey Peterson's mother said, divorce was an option. This was not an option. This wasn't on the table. Clearly, there's something wrong with this individual. very immature. Who knows if he's also on the spectrum? We don't know. Was he ever tested? 22 years old, lives with the grandparents, first girlfriend, and it's her, and then gets her pregnant, and then started to try to distance himself from her and break up with her. And it's very possible that there's another female that he was attracted to and envisioned a relationship with her. Carbuncle Pond. There was the woman in Brockton. She lived in Brockton. They'd pick her up, bring her to the factory. This guy that worked at the factory got involved with her, got her pregnant, and then suddenly gets back involved with the old girlfriend. And the old girlfriend says, well, pick. It's either me or her. Now, a normal person would think, okay, I'm going to break up with her. But he had a child with her. Suddenly she's pregnant. So Carbuncle Pond, what did he do? He killed her. They threw her in the pond. Sadly, it's not the first time, and it won't be the last time. But there's also, for those of you that follow, there's a pattern. Last person. Who was the last person with Charlotte Lester? Mark Perkins. Who was the last person with Lacey Peterson? Scott Peterson. Who was the last person with Officer John O'Keefe? Karen Reed. Who was the last person with Michelle Romano? That still is an open investigation. As far as the Brockton situation, SUV comes by, they pick her up. She was last seen with those two degenerates that killed her and threw her in Carbuncle Pond in Coventry. And in this situation, who was the last person with Kylie? Greg Groom, the boyfriend. That's why, and this is, like I've said, motive means an opportunity. When you approach things in that way, a lot of questions get answered. And you start to see, that's why police, as attorney Stephanie Murphy said, they couldn't just immediately go there and raid the place. People don't recognize that what would happen if then the whole case gets tossed out because they did something wrong. There are people that are trying to free Brian Walsh, saying that he made mistakes, or excuse me, the state police investigating him did. He killed his wife, Anna, who was the last one to see her alive. Brian Walsh. So, here we go. He was never in the house. That's right. The person in Aruba. Look at that. Even I blank on the name. Remember, she was the high school girl. See, it's terrible. And there is, so Kylie had an ex-boyfriend, and this guy has been putting some weird things out there. That tells me he's just looking for Natalie Holloway. Thank you, Anne Marie. Natalie Holloway. That's right. It often is. Nicole Brown Simpson, Ron Goldman. Who was the last one to see them alive? OJ. Most of the time. I'm not saying every time, but most of the time, it is the person that saw them last. Yes, Natalie Holloway. So in Aruba. Folks, this portion of our program, let's talk about something positive on a lighter note. Now, I do want to touch on, there's other news with this that I'm going to get into, but then I also want to just touch on what I believe is a storm headed our way, and I don't see any of the media giving it attention. But let's talk about something positive. Let's talk about Kids Club, because it will be time for back to school. Next week is the last week of school before summer. With Kids Club on the pike, Now, they're located right off of 295 on the Cranston Johnston line. It's Kids Club on the Pike. They do birthday parties, before and after school programs, preschool, Kids Club on the Pike. Easy to get to. Maybe you're looking for options for preschool or before and after school care. And again, it's a great place. Maybe you want to have a party to celebrate. Your kids had a great time this summer. Kids Club on the Pike. Contact them. Look for them on Facebook or call Kristen 401-443-5336. It's Kids Club on the Pike. So, and like I said, I know, Cindy, it was very, very fast. So where does this stand? Right now, the police are investigating to find out if other people may have known that the boyfriend, did he tell anyone? Now, I'm learning that she had a guy she dated, I believe, very briefly. And he was posting some weird things. And I don't know what to make of it, but I'm not going to draw a lot of attention because you can tell in this web, quite frankly, there are some rather odd individuals, and if they didn't have anything to do with it, it's best not to give them any attention. So we're just I'm going to let the police follow that. I have some other information about the phone and so forth, but tomorrow night is the vigil, 7:00. We have shared it more than anyone. We'll share it again for those who want to go. The vigil was initially set up as a vigil of hope that they would find her. They did find her, but obviously this one did not turn out the way that we wanted it to. So I will have an update on the website, but again, I come back to there's no reason why there should be any personal information of Kylie's family online. And some people are gravitating towards a text that she sent where it said, if anything happens to me, I'm at 4% of my phone. It was Greg. But when that's taken out of context, that is true, a text like that was sent. But then a family member talked to them after that. And she could be known, rest in peace, but could be known as a little bit as a drama queen. And so that's how that came about. But people are taking it out of context as if the last message they got from her was, if anything happens to me, it was him. And I get that that's more dramatic, but that's not what happened. A family member FaceTimed with them after that, and she said, no, it's okay. So again, the reason I mention that is it's very unfair, I believe, for people to then be drilling down that, the family, I would be on the phone with the police right away, and the family should have, it's not like they blew it off, but like I said, this has been horrible. I feel terrible for Faith. I feel terrible for Kitty and Kylie's family. And I don't, there's no happy ending with this. There's no happy ending for this. Now, again, also, I want to mention the shooter in Cranston. He is back in Rhode Island, the accused shooter, and he is in court this afternoon. Now, I've been in touch with the family of the victim. You know what else is odd about this story is the victim, the 16-year-old that was shot and killed, he actually is, he's from Fall River, and the shooter's from Fall River, and the third person is still out there. It was initially put out that he was from Providence. There was some connection to Providence. I think that they had some connection with a gang in Providence. But Damari Montero, that basically executed the victim. But I have been talking to the family, and I believe we're going to do an interview. I think it's going to be early next week. There is still a third person who is on the loose with that. Chris Smith raises a very good point. I agree. I know that the boyfriend, if we're staying, I'm going to quickly just mention why I was mentioning, and maybe we'll do it more next week. I just want to go on record. Governor McKee the governor of Rhode Island, basically telling the DOJ, the Department of Justice and ICE, like, don't tell me how to run my state, and blah blah blah. And I think he's playing with fire, and I don't think he should be saying those types of things. I think they're really pushing it. And when you have the DOJ telling you, which they have, to McKee, that we want you to start following these guidelines, and him and Matos, the lieutenant governor, basically giving ICE and the DOJ the table for one salute. I think it's I am telling you right now, I believe that's a mistake. There's a lot of federal money at stake. This is the wrong administration for them to be playing games with. And Governor McKee, and others, by the way, he's not alone. But for them, it's like they're daring. It's as if they're daring the ICE and the Department of Justice to, go after the state. And it would be the state that would be harmed. It would be the state that would be harmed by this. I'm telling you, I think they're making a huge, huge mistake by not just, I mean, think about it. They're basically saying, we're not going to follow the rules. We're going to, run things the way we want to run things here in the state. I'm telling you, state that he is a scrawny guy, and I think it is, as I mentioned, I know he made a comment, meaning the boyfriend, Greg, that he made a comment in a almost like, as if I could drag her or something like that. He made a comment akin to, oh yeah, as if they were looking in the water, as if I dragged her 26 acres. So he was admitting that he couldn't do that, but where did he muster the strength to then even be able to do all of this? But again, folks, these individuals are certainly, that family is odd. I've said the whole nature of him and the brother living there with the grandparents. I do believe there will be and could be a wrongful death suit here. So, which again, that doesn't do them any good right now. But I want to be also very clear. To me, this falls on one person. This falls on one person, and it's the person that committed the act. So, okay, he didn't want to be a father. And yeah, what a life. I want my life back. Now that he had his first girlfriend, and it's very possible that he was then making moves on the friend as well. So I agree with those that have said, what life was he looking for to go back to? He was living like a 15-year-old. So, but there's clearly something wrong, and I'll be anxious to see if the police come up with something on the grandparents or the brother, or maybe a friend. So use a winch. Okay, it's possible. But make sure, make no mistake about it. Any culpability falls with him, on him. And to do that. So I think this will, yes, right. He did. He burned his clothes initially. And I believe thank you, Michael. But that, it really, condolences on the judge could really go to the family. I mean, obviously, I knew the judge. My kids knew the judge. I mean, I've been very, very friendly with the Caprios. I went to Henriken with Frankie and David. And so I've known them, Johnny, very, very long time. That should be, so next week is going to be the funeral. It was, no, he burned his clothes, Melody. But from what I understand, when they found her, they saw burned remains of clothes. So they someone that initially thought he had burned her, it turned out it was just his clothes that he apparently had burned. So 100%. And the police are investigating that. The police are investigating that. And that's all there. I want to come back to, as many, many of you know, by and large, when the Massachusetts State Police said to the family, let us do our job. This is what we do. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were doing. And I want to stress to people, this was not, if they had moved sooner, her life could have been saved. I don't want to get too in the weeds with some of these misguided comments, but once he had taken her life, stabbed in the neck twice and then once in the chest, no one knew anything. The next day she was, that night, tragically, she was deceased. So I'm a little perplexed at people. Either they want to go the conspiracy route or they just want to blame the police for whatever reason. But there was no one to save at that point. At that point, the police wanted to obviously find her and also hold the proper person accountable. But some of the comments I put, police that night should have gone in, she could still be alive. I don't know what you're talking about. And as someone, we go out with police, they go out on a lot of domestic calls. So police get put in a bind. I view that as people, for whatever reason, there's some people that just have it out for law enforcement. They're looking for a way. Maybe it's too hideous for them to think that someone would commit a crime like that. So they want to look for someone to blame. But by and large, police did the proper search. They searched everywhere. They searched with the helicopter. They searched with the water. Otherwise, you have some defense attorneys out there that say they zoomed right in on him. And I think also maybe they weren't exactly sure. He's not like he's a gang member. He didn't have a criminal record. Didn't drive. I keep referring that, but I just mean that it shows immaturity and lack of options. Folks, this portion of our program brought to you by Arch Design Builders. Remember, they specialize in residential design. Arch Design Builders. Call them today, 401-207-4124. 401-207-4124. Arch Design Builders, whether it's a kitchen or a bathroom or a basement or a deck. Arch Design Builders. Give them a call, set up the meeting, high-end custom build customer service. It's Arch Design Builders. And then let's dream. I share their social media, set up the phone call, set up the message, set up the meeting with Roxanne, 401-218-9707. So the vigil is tomorrow night. And once again, this is a case where, for those of you that follow, the last person that saw her alive ended up being the person responsible for her death. Like we said, Scott Peterson, he was the last person to see Lacey Peterson alive. Mark Perkins was the last person to see Charlotte Lester alive. There's the shooting suspect in court today. He was the last one. They have video. He pulled the gun on the 16-year-old, took his life. We talked about the Michelle Romano case is still open, but then we also talk about Brian Walsh and Anna Walsh, and also Karen Reed. Karen Reed was the last person that saw John O'Keefe alive. So most of the time, folks, not every time, but many times it is, in fact, the last person with a person who sees them. Yep, Casey Anthony. That is another one. And Natalie Holloway. So as much as sometimes they do things to try to throw police and others off the trail, Look at Brian Walsh said, oh no, she took her ride service. She went to Logan. She must be in DC somewhere, as if there's no cameras at Logan, as if they wouldn't have a record of her not checking in. Mark Perkins said, no, I haven't seen her. I haven't seen her, when we know that wasn't true. So they try to throw it up. What did Karen Reed say? Oh, I think a snowplow hit him. Yeah, I left him at the waterfall. So many times, as we've seen, now we don't know. He said, I broke up with her, and then I walked her to the driveway, and she walked off the property. Gabby Petito is another one. It is sad. So, yes. But my point is, folks, that's why police that do this, they get a handle on it. And in this particular case, Alex Murtaugh, that's right. Many of them that we could go through. It's not, I'm not saying it's every time. And sometimes it can be that, when you have Maya Brophy Behrman, she was I was literally in the wrong place at the wrong time. She was out with friends late on the east side of Providence. A friend of hers was walking her to her car. Some gang members drove by. They thought he resembled someone they were looking for, and they fired. They didn't know her. They had never encountered her. She didn't know them. She didn't do anything wrong. That more often than not, it is rare. But many times, Susan Smith, it does come back to the last person. And again, we also come to, as we've talked about, motive, means, and opportunity. Does someone have the opportunity? Do they have the means, and do they have the motive? So in this particular case, now there's no real rationale. You can't get in the mind of someone like this. So Brian Walsh, he decided that he was going to have his mother raise the 3 boys they had, and he was just going to get rid of her. Anna Walsh, that trial coming up in October. It's horrific. Scott Peterson told Amber Fry he had lost his wife. He had been previously married. I mean, that they just act as though, oh well, like that's my past, as if they're going to move on from that. Mark Perkins thought no one was going to go to his house or start questioning what happened to Charlotte and the red truck. So Karen Reed tried to say that, oh no, I left him at the waterfall. And then when they said, no, we saw your Lexus in front of the house. She went, I think a snowplow hit him. Again, many times police know it is the last individual. Motive, means, and opportunity. In this particular case, with poor Kylie, he had motive. What was the motive? I didn't say it's a good motive, but to me, that comment he made of, I just want my life back, that was him saying he was obviously wildly mature, got himself into a situation, and didn't know how to get out of it. And so that, in a very frightening way. I also want to mention, now today's Friday. Tuesday morning, think of this week, Tuesday morning, I knew he was at the police station. I did not say anything. While we were live at 1, they were carrying out the raid, right? Tuesday morning, he went to the Rehoboth police station without an attorney, sat down with Massachusetts State Police detectives while, the mother of his child, Kylie, is buried on his property. We don't know that. We're going to let the police investigate that. I'm hearing mixed things. I don't know. It's an odd one. So that is, I think that remains an unknown. I'll say that. So it remains an unknown. Well, folks, we still have summer to go. Remember, the most important thing that you can do for yourself and your family is health. And the Queen has returned. Joining us back to the station, we have missed her, the Queen of Health, Dr. Marie. It is my health. 1099. Welcome back, Queen Marie.
Hi, John. Yep, had a nice little vacation, but I'm back to it.
Good. All right. What do you have for us today, Queen?
I can't hear you very well today, but
what do you have for us? What do you have for us?
So I didn't really prepare too much today. I've been really playing catch up all week. But I wanted to share one thing that I have found to be really, really helpful. We hear about bone broth all the time, and so the company that we carry, Ancient Nutrition, and their bone broth protein is really, really good. It has the hyaluronic acid in it. It has the collagen. It has the glucosamine. So really good for the joints, the skin, the hair. We get some really, really good feedback on it. I do highly recommend collagen. A lot of people are doing collagen, but I'm not. I don't eat meat, but I do bone broth because it has really good benefits. But the straight collagen, because it comes from bovine hide, I'm not as crazy about it. But doing it as bone broth feels a little bit more holistic to me, and more useful. It's the way people have done it for ages. So I really like it. I get lots of good feedback, people's hair, their skin, their nails, their joints, to see such a difference. And I do it myself, and I really like it. I think it makes a big difference. It's a really good all-around supplement, especially as we start getting a little bit older and things aren't working as well as we'd like them to.
Folks, stop in and see her, Marie, at It's My Health, 1099 Mendon Road in Cumberland. Marie, what are your hours today and what are your hours tomorrow?
We'll be here till 5:30 today, and tomorrow from 9 to 4.
And what about honey and local products?
About honey? So yeah, we do carry local honey. We carry Betty's honey, and we're in allergy season. Ragweed's already starting to kick up, and a lot of people, with sinus issues and throat issues and itchy eyes. Eating honey is a good thing, especially local, because you're getting the pollen from the weeds and the herbs that are growing here, and it can help long term. It's not something that you take it today and it's going to make a difference, but if you're doing it on a regular basis, you're going to notice that that your body responds better around allergy seasons.
Folks, the Queen is back. Marie, good to see you, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, you have a great weekend.
All right, folks, stop in and see her. She's just terrific. I am going to give an update. I just saw Anne Marie. I'll give her the update. I'll give her the latest. Folks, Marie at It's My Health, 1099 Mendon Road in Cumberland. Local retailer. She is so fantastic. She's so knowledgeable. Stop in and see her. I'll give an update. Here's the update. Couple things. Number one, the investigation remains open. Like many of you, I find it a little hard to believe no one else knew. Police are investigating that. He did all of that by himself. I don't know. I am open. I'm not sold on who, but I'm open that other people may have known. And I think the grandparents really need to be questioned here. I think so. Number one. Number two, Stephanie, our legal expert, said it yesterday, but I feel very comfortable in saying this. Not comfortable that I like it, but feel confident is probably a better word. He is not going to be charged with the double murder. I know a lot of people are going to be upset about that. A lot of people have asked about that. A lot of people, you may believe that, but he is not going to be charged with the double murder. Yes, she was 11 weeks pregnant, but this is Massachusetts you're talking about. There are other states, Oklahoma, Texas, some other states he would most likely be charged, but he will not be charged this will not be a double murder charge. And I know people are upset about that. People feel it should be. I'm not saying I disagree, but again, we're trying to deal in reality here. So the vigil is tomorrow night, but he is not going to be charged. How much time? No, again, this isn't going to be a trial. It's not going to be a trial. This is, and just because there's a trial, it doesn't mean they're giving him a deal. They may say, too, there'll be a public defender for him unless the family steps up and maybe sells some land or comes up with some money and gets him an attorney. But they're going to come to something that just, they don't want to go through a trial, get him to agree to something. But it will most likely be in the 20 to 25 year range. This will not be a life in prison. No, it won't be life in prison. It will most likely be 20 years. 20 years. Again, I'm not saying I want to be very clear. I'm not saying that that's my suggestion. What I want and what I think does not matter. We're talking about the Massachusetts justice system. So 20 years out in 15. You're the guy, he killed a Boston police officer in 1993. He went to prison. He was out in 2008, 2009, right around there. So Greg Groom will most likely be out. He's 22. He will most likely, I hope I'm wrong, but he'll most likely be out before he's 40. I would think before he's 40. Probably nothing beyond that. I know that is not what people want, because in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, they don't have it. It's the judges, and it's this part of the country. It's not everywhere. There's other places, like I've said, but I see people put death penalty. There is no death penalty. They still haven't executed the Boston Marathon bomber. So no, it'll be. He confessed that he drew a map. So no, it's not going to be like that. So I know that is, yeah, definitely. He will, Jennifer. He will get early parole wherever he ends up. He may be on work release. The market he's at, he may end up getting work release and going there. Again, it's not what I want. It's not if it was Judge Juan, that's not what I would sentence him to, but that is Massachusetts. And once again, the last person, Brian Walsh, Anna Walsh, right? Gabby Petito, the boyfriend, Karen Reed, last person to see them alive. Mark Perkins, once again, last person to see them alive ends up being the person. All right, folks, listen, thank you for a great week. We will be active with Road Patrol Live later. Don't forget the vigil is tomorrow night at 7. Thank you to Gian for quite a week. If you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news.